Mazen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Nicole. I'm the social media coordinator for the All American High School Film Festival, and I'm so excited to learn all about your film. Congratulations on being one of our 2025 official selections.
Thank you so much. Great to speak with you.
Well, for starters, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, what high school you went to, and what got you into filmmaking?
Yeah, so my name is Mazen. I'm 18 right now. I went to Arlington High School in Arlington, Massachusetts. I've been doing filmmaking for my entire high school experience, from my freshman year all the way to my senior year. Um, this film I made in my junior year primarily. And it was, just a collaboration between some friends of mine that had similar ambitions as me for filmmaking. And so, yeah, we teamed together, and over the summer I wrote the script, and then for the school year we shot the movie, and then ended up premiering it at the end.
That's awesome. Okay, so in this next part, we're gonna do a little bit of an activity. So I am gonna time you, and you're gonna give me almost like an elevator pitch of your film's genre, main theme, and your hook, but you have 60 seconds. Are you ready?
All right, yeah.
Okay, great. Three, two, one.
All right, so it's a political satire. It's a comedy. It's about a mayor who can't make any decisions. And it is, it's satirical in that it shows local government as kind of bigger than it actually is. And it's kind of um, it has interesting characters in that they struggle with their own problems, and they have different like conflicts that end up being solved at some point of the film at some point in the film. And yeah, it surrounds a moment of clarity for the main character, the mayor, which ends up changing his life and changing the lives of people around him.
Fire! You did that and you still had 15 seconds to spare. That's great. So, what inspired you to make this film?
So I've been, pretty like politically active even at a young age. My parents were like they're very politically active, and so that's kind of gone down on me as well. And just looking at the news from something as basic as that to, um, wondering why, we don't get our problems solved a lot of the time. Like, why is that? And I think a lot of that comes down to apathy and comes down to like um, not not trusting yourself to make the decisions that are correct and that are like most beneficial to as many people as you can benefit. And so I kind of wrote this as, there's this mayor who can't make decisions because he doesn't he it's a vote and it's split 50-50, and he can't break the vote because he knows that he's gonna lose some supporters. He's gonna lose 50% of the town's supporters. And so he struggles with making a decision because he doesn't know why. Like he doesn't want to find out what will happen when he actually takes initiative and does his job.
So, you mentioned that like you're a very like politically active person and this is a very like political, obviously, well, in somewhat of a way like film. Like were there any like specific influences that made you make this? Like another film, like something that really happened in real life, like anything like that?
Well, I would say that the film that was the biggest inspiration for me was Network, written by Paddy Chayefsky, 1976, and it's an amazing film, and it's a political satire, or it's a satire, not necessarily political, but it's a satire in a way that it shows the most extreme thing that could possibly happen to a person, and sees how they emotionally deal with it, and how they get through it, how they, the ending, it gets cranked to 100. And I think that the idea of um, writing comedy in order to address real problems in the world is very important, because when people laugh about things, I think, in my opinion, they pay more attention to it, and it's more. like you laugh at like, oh yeah, no, this is true. Like, why is this happening? Like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this one time in my town where like, we couldn't pass the budget or whatever, and it ended up cutting resources to someone, or even like, at a national scale, especially, it's that same kind of influence. But yeah, no, I think the bottom line was making people laugh, but also making people reflect on the real world from that.
That kind of reminds me a lot of like SNL. You know, like their whole gimmick is like making fun of real life things that happened. So, but I think like SNL's objective is like to make you laugh. But so, what do you think like the objective of audience reaction is for your film?
Well, I would say that I've had the privilege of seeing the film a few times with like an audience, and it was really interesting to see the times that they laughed and what they were laughing at. Because I think there were some, there's some moments in the movie that are just gags. They're just like funny for no sake really, just funny. But then there are other times where it's more like you're laughing at like what the crazy situation that's going on. And I think that when people laugh at those particular moments more than just the gags, I think that it kind of affirms my belief that like that's the type of comedy that we need more, and it's the type of it's yeah, I think it's very fun to see people react to it, and I think that if people excuse me, if people really get the message of like this is like, oh yeah, this is more than just this one guy and stuff like that, then I think people start to get the bigger picture of what I'm trying to say. So yeah.
Were there any like behind the scene moments that like made you laugh or like surprised you a lot?
Well, I think when I was writing the script, or actually just after I had the idea, I immediately knew who would play the main character. And it's, my old supervisor who was like very, like very animated and really conveys comedy really well. And I told him the idea, and immediately he was like, "I'm on board, but you have to cast me as the mayor." And so I think that the biggest surprise for me behind the scenes was that as I was writing the script, which I was constantly bouncing ideas off of him. I was like, "Do you think this is funny? Do you think it's not?" I think the biggest surprise was that after all that, we added so much more to the script while we were filming. We would have moments where he would just want to improv for like 10 minutes. We would film it. He would like bounce things off his co-stars, and if it stuck in the editing room, then it stuck, and a lot of it didn't, but a lot of it did. And now if I show the script to people, people are like, "Oh, wait, they're missing this part." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, that was all Jasper." So, yeah, no, I think that was the biggest surprise.
So, what do you think like your biggest challenge was that you made either pre, during, or like post production?
Um, hmm, I would say biggest challenge was time, like finding times for the crew and cast. I think that's an obvious one that a lot of student films struggle with. But kind of more than that, I think just the timeline of it all was very difficult because I was trying to get it done in a relatively quick manner, but it ended up taking a really long time. And so, the writing took must have been like 6, 7 months, and then another, 8 months until the premiere. So it was a lot. And I think in my future work, I really hope I can like get on top of it more and get it done faster.
I think every single person who I've asked that question to has told me time was their biggest challenge. And I get
Mm.
it. It has to be probably the hardest part. Okay, for my last question, and this is the most important one, why should people make sure to go see your film during our festival?
I think you should go see Mayor because it's more than, an average comedy would provide in terms of a message and kind of being being more poignant in this time, especially, in the political climate that the United States is dealing with right now. I think it's really important for people to watch films that are kind of poking fun at power, kind of making people more aware of the problems that we're facing. And I think that it's it's really important to support the future generations, like my age, who are now getting the ability to vote and like stuff like that, to kind of show what we view the world as and what we think is the future of politics and just yeah, just our general society. I think it's really important.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. We're super excited to feature your work in our festival. And for those attending the fest, you can see Mayor on Saturday, October 18th during screening number 27 at the AMC Empire 25 theaters in Times Square, New York City. See you guys in October.